So what's going on, guys? Okay, so following on from yesterday's lesson, what we've got is we've got our photo montage, right? So we've got a background image, which is this forest, and we've got a few more images. So we've got the image of Chun-Li, we've got the Scorpion, and we've got the Green Lantern, John Stewart. But what I want us to do today is we're going to be adjusting each layer to just make our image more visually interesting, and we're also going to be saving it as a PSD and as a JPEG, and I'll explain the difference between the two. So let's start off by adjusting our background. So right now we've got quite a colorful background, got some very strong greens in there, but we can adjust those colors. So we're going to hide our other layers, so we're going to hide the other three layers. So if we look here in our layers palette, we can click on the little eye symbol, and that will allow us to hide that layer so it's no longer visible. So that's what that little eye means. Right, so now we've got our background image. Make sure that your background image is selected, so you can tell which layer is selected because it has a little grey border around the selected layer, and also the name will appear up here in brackets. Okay, so Green Lantern, you see Green Lantern is selected. We've got our background layer selected. Right, so we're going to adjust the hue. Now, hue is the color, and the saturation, which is the intensity of the color. So if we go up to the top of our screen and we click on image, if we go to adjustments, scroll down to hue and saturation, we can see a lot of options here of adjustments that we can make. We can adjust the brightness, contrast, levels, curves, the exposure. We can apply a photo filter. These are things that we're going to cover in the weeks to come, but today we're going to look at the hue and the saturation. So if we click on hue saturation, then we get this dialog pop up. So as you can see, we've got three options. We've got the hue, the saturation, and the lightness. The hue is the color, right? So hue is just another word for color. So if we grab that, if we click on that and we begin to adjust, then we'll see that our image that we have selected begins to change. All right, so anything that you've got selected, you may select someone's eye to change the hue, and this will allow us to do that. So we're going to change it to, well, you guys can adjust it to whatever you guys want to adjust it to, but I'm going to change it to this kind of orangey color. The saturation is the amount of color. Right, so if an image is desaturated, which means that it has no saturation, then it is completely black and white. If it is highly saturated, then it gets really flooded with color, and the color's intensity is brought out to the maximum. So I'm going to bring my saturation down slightly. We also have the option to click colorize. Now colorize simply makes the image monochromatic, which means that it uses only one color, and that color is the color that you select on your hue palette. See, so we could colorize, intensify the saturation. So now we've got this reddy, let's make it more orangey color. See, so those are our options. But if we don't do that, then we simply adjust the hue. So we're going to hit OK. Right, so now we've adjusted our background. Let's bring in one of our other images and let's see what we can do with that. Right, so we brought in this cool image of Chun-Li. I think it's from the, it's not the SNK version. I think that's that one that I haven't actually played. Alright, so let's go select the Chun-Li image. So we could do the same thing. We could go up to adjustments. We could go to hue saturation. We can adjust Chun-Li's colors. It's like when you get alternative outfits. So that is an option. That looks pretty cool. Yeah, we could go with that, and we could hit cool. We could hit OK, and we're happy with it. To adjust our Chun-Li, or just hit edit undo. Or what we can do is we can also go to our blending modes. So blending modes is something which gives you really cool effects and can be used in different ways. So later on in the year we'll be using it for different things. But now, right now, I want you guys to experiment. So if we click on our layer palette where it says normal, that'll give us a drop down menu or a pop up menu. So we can do things like darken, multiply. We can see it becomes transparent. We get some really cool effects on there. Lighten screen. So all of these become lighter. These ones become darker. Soft overlay. So dependent on where, so if we were to select, say, hard light, if we were to then reposition Chun-Li, so we've just gone up to the move tool and move her around, then you can see the effect is slightly different dependent on where she is on the screen. So I'm going to leave her pretty much where she was. Let's go up to our green lantern. Let's make the green lantern visible, and we can also apply a filter on the lantern. Oh, we're going to go with divide, which is pretty crazy looking. We're going to bring back our scorpion, and with our scorpion we're going to go to adjustments. That scan's all good. We're going to go to adjustments, and let's, not really a lot we can do with him. Let's go to image adjustments. Let's colorize the scorpion. We're going to increase our saturation so we've got a cool green scorpion. Yeah, so those are changing the hue and saturation for our background image. So we just went up to image adjustments, hue, saturation to adjust our background, and then we adjusted some of our blending modes by selecting our layer palette. In our layer palette, I want you guys to experiment with those. I want you guys to select three. I want you guys to create 3 photo montages, and I want you guys to adjust them, but I also want you guys to save them as 2 separate files. Right, so we're going to save it as a JPEG. So if we go to File, Save As, and then we're going to save it as a PSD. We hit OK. So now that saves as a PSD. A PSD is a Photoshop document, right? Which means that we can still go in, we can edit our layers, it literally opens it the way that it is now. And then we're also going to save it as a JPEG. So we're going to change the type, right? So the type of file that it's going to save as, and we're going to go to JPEG, and we're going to hit save. You guys can change the name. What that will allow us to do is, this means that it will be viewable on any platform. So if we wanted to upload it to our Instagram or whatever the case is, then you'll be able to do that. We get the option to change the quality. So if we bring the quality right the way down to 0 to load, then what you see that does is that reduces the file size, which is here. If we bring it all the way up to large, then it is the full resolution of our image, which is 4.3 megabytes. Now, of course, if you reduce the quality, then that means that the image quality is going to be slightly less. So depending on what you're using it for, you want to keep that in mind. All right, and we're going to save that. Hit OK. Then I want you guys to upload those onto the classroom. Don't forget to write up your document to explain what it is that you learned.